I'd have to say the biggest dumpster fire was a lead architect. I was as a lead architect on a very large Honeywell to IBM conversion, and this was converting Honeywell assembler to C language. And a couple of interesting things about that. This was my first opportunity as an application architect. And so I led that project as an application architect. The second challenge on this was that we had no documentation. So we had to reverse engineer business rules from Honeywell assembler. But, led the project. It was a huge success. We were on time, within budget, and converted all the functionality.
Okay, and what part of that was a dumpster fire?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good point. What was the question? No. Actually, the reason that came to mind when you asked the question was because it was a success, the project was. But the dumpster fire actually had nothing to do with the technical aspects of that project. It had to do with the people parts, namely me. It wasn't one of my proudest moments as a software architect, but essentially, I alienated almost everybody on that project. And as a matter of fact, 2 people actually left the company as a direct result of my abrasiveness, my lack of leadership, my lack of coaching, mentoring, and my lack of overall people skills. That's why that came to mind first, because that was the biggest lesson learned I think I ever had in software architecture, that being a software architect is much more than just being a great technologist. It's also being really good at leadership and people skills. And it really, you know what, Neal? That project really did, for me, really define the role of what an architect does.
Yep, that nicely reflects what Tricia was talking about before we came out. So let's go more positive and not talk about negative things. So what's the architecture you're proudest of that you built?
Well, all of them. Next question.
The last one, right? The most recent one?
I'd have to say in 2005, I was working with IBM, actually. I was on a very large insurance company project in SOA. And I have to say that was probably my proudest architecture. Now, keep in mind, in 2005, SOA was at the beginning of that hype curve, and we were just trying to figure it out. And it was a fantastic project. I actually felt like I figured SOA out, service-oriented architecture. Worked on several ESB workflow patterns, service registry patterns that ended up actually with 2 patents that I received as a result of that project. And that was actually pretty good through IBM. However, I will say there is a lesson learned there as well. Because while that project I was really proud of, and it was a huge success, there was a lesson learned. That project, Neal, almost failed. Because we didn't take one thing into account early enough. You see, service-oriented architecture is all about services. No, it's not. It's all about the data. And the data consolidation and kind of tearing apart and consolidating data was something we waited too long for. That was a key lesson learned. As a matter of fact, I know you've quoted you've said this quote. Something comes to mind from George Santayana. As a matter of fact, he said this: "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." And think of what we have now, this big hype curve in microservices. And as a matter of fact, in my travels, I see the same history being repeated. Now, all this focus on services in microservices and not enough about the data.